All right. Hello, hello. Welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our second day of the third annual Sacramento School Wellness Summit. We have an exciting session ahead. My name is Hiba Eltahir, and I am your host and a program administrator here at the Health Education Council on the Healthy Schools team. The Health Education Council is a nonprofit organization based in Sacramento that serves the greater Sacramento region. Our mission is to cultivate health and well-being in underserved communities by leveraging the power of collaboration and action. The Health Education Council team welcomes you to our second session of our School Wellness Summit. Thank you for joining us for this session entitled Food, Movement, and Mood, the Impact of Whole Student Health. Before we get started, I wanted to share some housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, and the slides and recordings will be available after the session. Attendee lines are automatically muted, and the video feature is off. Please use the chat and Q&A feature to ask questions or provide any comments. We'll also be providing a post-session survey at the end of today's session. For those requesting professional development credits, you will need to complete the post-session survey. We'll also be raffling gift cards after the summit concludes. So in order to enter the raffle, you'll also need to complete the post-survey. Any attendees who live in Sacramento County can receive a physical copy of our school wellness guide, and all attendees will receive a virtual copy. In order to receive the wellness guides, please also complete the post-session surveys. Today's session will explore the scientific links between nutrition, physical activity, and mental health, and will provide effective strategies and tools to help school districts implement programming and practices to advance student wellness. Participants will learn about legislative school policy updates and will develop action plans for themselves and for their schools. Now, I am excited to introduce our speakers for today. Representing wellness and science policy, Dr. Nadine Bronstein, an associate professor at California State University, Sacramento, as well as the Dietetic Internship Director. She was a 2013 to 2014 Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Health Policy Fellow. She also received the 2020 Outstanding Educator Award for the Western Region of Nutrition and Dietetics Educators and Practitioners Group for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Representing wellness programming, we have Rajwinder Kaur, a community nutrition advisor at Dairy Council of California. Raj earned an MPH with an emphasis on health promotion and education from the University of Southern California. She is a local representative of both the Smarter Lunchrooms movement of California and Local School Wellness Policy Collaborative, which provides her with unique insight into positively implementing changes to build healthier schools. The expertise she has, she will leverage to support the school, community, and region. With that, I would love to hand it off to our very first speaker, Dr. Nadine Bronstein.
Thank you very much, Hiba. Let me share my screen. And let's get up to the top here. Let's get started. So I'm very, very happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of my enthusiasm for school health, and that's the health of the students, as well as the health of all the staff and all the supportive make a school work, because the students need to be healthy and well as the all the other people surrounding the school. So during this session today, we'll review evidence-based research, science, supporting the connection between food and mood, nutrition, physical activity, and mental health. We'll identify some policies that are promoting student health and wellness. And as part of when we were developing the plan for the meeting today, we decided that we would have you as the participants develop a personal action plan. And as you're taking notes or things, think about some aha moments so that you can think of just one little thing that you could do in the next week that get you toward wellness, and for yourself, for the school. Maybe there's a web link that you want to go to. Maybe there's somebody in your school that you want to talk with. And so keep that in the back of your mind as we're moving through the session today. So this is just to show a little image that I created, that we'll first start at talking about food and mood, nutrition, physical activity, and mental health. And to be honest, they're all interrelated, and you're going to see the connections between all of them. So just a second, hold on just a second. I am just wondering why I'm hearing some noises and sounds. So if you can hold on just.
Pretty tough on China, the treatment of the Uyghurs and what he calls China's concerning nuclear buildup.
I'm just not sure. I have a rogue radio. Just a second. Who would have believed that could happen during my presentation? Oh, please forgive me, everyone. That's thinking about wellness. You have to think about everything. But anyway, we have a polling question for everyone. We want to know, what is your role in the school? Teacher, administrator, support staff, other, or I'm not working in a school. So let us know when people have completed the poll, and let's see who's in our audience today. So we have a lot of support staff, other not working in the school. Fantastic. It's just good to know who's here. So many thanks. So as we move on, let's move into the session. So I'm just wanting, as I mentioned earlier, how to actively participate. We'd like this to be an active session. And so use the chat box, interact in the chat with the other participants. Especially if you find an aha moment or learn something new, or you have an idea, just drop it in the chat. It would be great to do that and to share with the other people who are attending. And there was a worksheet that is associated with the session today. So if you're able to, take some notes, and we'll be going through that and seeing all the resources and ideas that you have. So let's first start talking about food and mood. And so there's interesting research that healthy diets do lead to healthier self-esteem, and likewise, higher self-esteem leads to a healthier diet. So if we think about the children in our schools, that just being well fed and not worrying about a tummy that's hurting, or next food is going to come from, that, and also which we're going to find out in a moment, healthier diets have more nutrients, and nutrients perform many functions in the body. So that if we have more nutrients, we feel better. We feel better about ourselves. We stand a little taller. We interact better. We do feel more confident. So think about that, and how that will influence your ideas for the children in their school, and even for yourself too. And also, we know that the healthier the children's diets are, the fewer emotional and peer problems they experience. So when our bodies get the nutrients that they need, for children and for adults, it's easier to interact with others. It's easier to let things go because your brain is working well. So this is a great place to begin about food and mood. Another thing that when we think about children in schools, we think about inattention, conduct problems, aggression toward peers, depression, school failure have all been found in teens with history of poor nutrition during important periods of brain development. Well, the brain is developing from in the preconception period, all the way through. The brain is still developing even into the mid 20s. So we want to make sure that we're feeding children well early on. And school meals is one of the most important places where children can get that good nutrition. So let's think about nutrients and mood. And I wanted to start with the big picture, the macronutrients, the protein, fat, and carbohydrate. And what do these nutrients do? That they provide fuel, they provide energy for the body. And so if we want the children to have energy in school and to be able to think well, we need all protein, fat, and carbohydrate. One way to think about these nutrients is if you've ever built a fire in the fireplace or out in the woods, to make a really good, strong fire, you need tinder, you need those little tiny twigs, the kindling, the medium pieces, and then you need the fuel, the big logs. You're not going to start a good, strong fire just if you just have the logs there. Well, that's why you want to think about your food very much like building the fire in the fireplace or in the woods. So we need some the carbohydrates. We need protein for more sustaining nutrition, sustaining fuel value. And then fat. Fat takes the longest to digest and stays with us. So we want to make sure that the children are also having a combination of protein, fat, and carbohydrate at their meals. And the school meals are balanced that way. But the example that I think is very good, and you'll see in the picture here, yogurt. I gave an example of lasagna just because that would have protein, fat, and carbohydrate in it. Maybe a stir fry with protein and vegetables. And the protein can be a meat-based protein like chicken, pork, meat, but it can be tofu, it can be tempeh, it can be beans, it can be, lentils, lentil soup. There are many ways to get that protein, but thinking about how you're going to feel and how you're going to have sustained energy is by including foods that have a meal that has protein, fat, and carbohydrate in it. So let's think about some other nutrients that are very, very important for when we're thinking about health and mental health. So selenium is a nutrient that works as an antioxidant, but it's also some really interesting research that shows that people who are low in selenium, because many of the soils where our food is grown doesn't have much selenium in it. And so that's some very interesting research when people who had very low levels of depression got adequate selenium, some of their low-level depression went away. And where can you get that? In 1 to 2 Brazil nuts is one of the best sources. But I suggest don't overdo it. 1 to 2 can really make a difference. And also similarly, when we say fish oils, I'm not necessarily thinking about you taking supplements or having cod liver oil in a spoon that maybe your grandparents had, or you may have been given by your caregivers. But some very interesting research that was done where people were taking fish oils for some research studies, and for something else. They weren't taking it for depression. And it turns out when they were collecting information from the participants in the study, they found that the people, when they were taking their fish oils, some of their low-level depression went away. So we can start to think about a diet that has a variety of foods and nutrients can help us feel well. Then the B vitamins, I'm not going to list all of them, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin. It's very, very important for energy metabolism, if that's what we're thinking about. Children, adults, having the energy to do our jobs, to sit through a day of school. These things are so important. And so where can you get them? In enriched and fortified grains. If you read the food packages and you read the fine print with the ingredients in it, you'll see the word fortified, you'll see the word enriched, and then they'll say it contains niacin, thiamine, riboflavin, those are some of the B vitamins, contains iron, contains folic acid, another B vitamin. So here that plus fruits and vegetables, great sources. And so having a diet that has a lot of variety can really help give us all energy to feel well, top of our game. So we're up for another polling question. Research shows that providing healthy food to children can reduce signs of depression. True or false? We're going to get to some of it a little bit later. When I created the questions, I was thinking about that I'd be talking about depression a lot more early in the presentation. Yes. Oh, great attendees and great students in this session today. So let's think about nutrition. We're going to, do some nutrition for that. If we increasing nutrient dense foods from high quality plant and animal sources like that I mentioned, a diet that has a variety of foods also is important because they're foods that also contain iron. Iron is the most important nutrient for growth and development. I teach a course, a life cycle course, preconception through childhood. And on the very first day of class, I tell the students, when in doubt, the most important nutrient for growth and development is iron. If we think about what's the role of iron in our body, iron carries, provides the hemoglobin in our blood cells that carry hemoglobin needs, we need to have enough iron in the body so that our hemoglobin can carry more oxygen. If we have low hemoglobin, then we're not carrying as much oxygen and people will be tired. And what are some good sources of that iron? Of course, our fortified foods like cereals and our enriched grains that I mentioned before. The iron that is in animal products such as beef and chicken, those are very good sources. We also can get iron from vegetable sources, and that would be something like kale and spinach. And one of the great things we can do is when we're eating the vegetables, if we cook it either in a cast iron skillet or have some vitamin C foods, maybe a little bit of orange juice, a little bit of cranberry juice, a piece of fresh fruit, a piece of grapefruit. That helps increase the iron absorption for the non-heme iron, the iron that doesn't come from animal products. One of the things that we can also do is promoting healthy eating patterns, school meals. They're designed so that they have certain amounts of yellow vegetables, green vegetables, protein sources, and rich foods. So that's one of the best things that kids can do. And also, there's also interesting research that we'll talk about in a minute that even that children who eat the are often have better get more nutrients than those who bring their lunch from home. And also, one of the most important things we can do is promoting bone health because children are growing and their bones are growing. So if we think about what are some of the nutrients, we always think about calcium from milk and dairy products, but you can also get calcium in orange juice, fortified orange juice. You can get other nutrients are so important. Magnesium from fruits and vegetables, manganese that comes from pineapple and from blackberries. Those are important. And also promoting bone health also means having exercise. So that's when children are going to be running and playing. That helps support and strengthen the bones. So all of these things are are ways that we as the adults in the children's lives can help promote nutrition and wellness for the children. One thing that we need to think about in school situations all throughout the country, here in Sacramento as well, is food insecurity. If people don't have enough access to healthy food, they may not be getting all the nutrients. If children are going to bed hungry, that can also mean that their brains aren't going to be getting all the nutrients and they're not going to be doing well in school. And so that's something that we can do, and I'll have some other ideas about that later. Sugar intake. I highly recommend reducing added sugars. There's natural sugar in milk, there's natural sugar in fruits, but I'm talking about the added sugars from sodas and cookies and those things. The American Heart Association, the World Health Organization are recommending diets that are lower in sugar, not to mention our the American Dental Association, because sugars also lead to dental caries. So, and what happens if you remember when I was talking about food as fuel, when your sugar is like the twigs or the news into the fire, it goes in fast, you get that burst of energy, and then you crash. The blood glucose goes up and then it comes down. So an important thing is that if we're going to be having, we are going to be offering children, sweets and things, make sure that it's part of a meal that has some protein and fat as well. That will help sustain the body. And then there won't be the crashes that happen after you've had foods that have more sugars in them. So let's think about what are health and academics from that are associated with school meals. And interesting research that receiving free or reduced price school lunches, insecurity, that really makes sense. Obesity rates, and also poor health. School meals improve mental and physical health, and including the weight-related outcomes that was mentioned above. And there are also very interesting links to improvements in the classroom, improved attendance, behavior, academic performance, and academic achievement. Well, all of this just makes sense, because when you're eating, when you're getting a variety of nutrients and you're fueling the brain with nutrients, school is going to go better. You're going to be happier. There is research that I have read in prior years that when some schools were hired like a chef, not like a school chef, but a chef came in and prepared really delicious meals, the attendance in school, the attendance rates went up. The fighting and things that high school kids, the scuffles that kids get into, it really reduced. So when we read research like that, we can think good nutrition really has many long-term benefits in school and in growth and thinking. So let's think about some other things about nutrition and school meals. The children who ate breakfast every day, as opposed to maybe sometimes, reported higher intakes of healthy foods. Well, that kind of makes sense, including fruit, whole grains, dairy, fiber, calcium, compared to those who didn't eat a school breakfast every day. And I'm very happy to say, and I'll be talking more about it, that California and our legislators in California had the wisdom to pass legislation that starting this school year, all school children in the state of California can receive free breakfast and lunch. That is going to make such a big difference in academics in these children, in also saving families money. They'll have more money for other things because the children can come to school and have those nutrients. So anyway, students who ate school lunch had higher intakes of dairy and calcium. Let's talk about physical I don't want to take too much time. And I want to just remind people as we go into the new topic, if something else comes up, please put a little comment in the chat. I see people are using the chat. So thank you so much. So another polling question. So this time I'm asking the polling question before. Research shows that students who are physically active tend to have better grades, school attendance, cognitive performance, classroom behaviors, or all of the above. All of the above. Fantastic. Well, that is correct. That's correct. So let's go and let's learn a little bit more about that. Now, when we look at the list, don't you see that all of these things are the same things that we talked about good nutrition? So when you combine good nutrition and physical activity together for the children just do so much better. So physical activity and grades. This, if we think about it, when children are active and when we're active as adults, we breathe deeper, our brain gets more oxygen, we think better. And then also kids like to move around a lot. And if they're just sitting all day, it's really concentrate. There's also a program that I'd heard about at a conference called the Walking Classroom, where recorded lessons are put on little recording devices, and the children could have headsets and they could walk and learn their lessons while they're walking. What a great way to imprint the information in being active. So great opportunities being physically active and getting good grades. And of course, as mentioned, even with nutrition, physical activity, school attendance. Kids, sometimes depending on where a child lives, that may determine if it may be safer for children to be playing and running around outside at school as compared to in their home neighborhoods. So that's also another reason why kids will want to come to school and want to play and want to maybe have their physical activity spaced out throughout the day so that they're going to be able to then focus in on their studies and want to come to school. So once again, physical activity, cognitive performance, that's like a brain being exercised. When you exercise and when you're doing things, when you're walking, you're using both the right hand and the left hand side. Guess what? It uses both the right and left hemispheres of your brain. And that means then the brain is working better when you're sitting still in your chair. So if we can activate our brains to work better by more oxygen and using both sides of the body, wow. Cognitive performance. And that also is for adults too, not just children. Classroom behaviors. Of course, this is a picture of a teacher and the kids are just playing and having fun. Now, we want children to have fun in school. Let's be honest. We want a classroom to be a really fun place. But that when children do have the chance to have physical activity, especially even before lunch period, and I'll talk about some interesting research about that, kids can focus better. So those are some things to keep in mind. This is the research I was mentioning, a very interesting study that was done in Alaska with over 5,000 students, and they divided the schools into those who were going to get longer lunch periods and those who did not, so they could compare. And what they found is that just by adding, the schools had typically had a 20-minute lunch break, and they added 10 more minutes to that lunchtime. And if you think about it, the way we serve lunches in schools, oftentimes kids have to go through a cafeteria line. Well, it takes a while for students to walk through that line. I have known children who, if they realize they're not that line early, because it could maybe take 10 minutes to get through the line, that only gives you 10 minutes to eat. That's really not much time, especially with opening things and child manual dexterity. Sometimes kids just say, it's just not worth it, because they don't want to rush. And so they found that extending longer lunch, and they also added more physical activity in that time. They decided that in this research study to put the physical activity before the lunch period. So the kids would play and they build up their appetite and get a chance to play. Because sometimes kids want to eat their lunch so fast because what they really want is their dessert. The dessert is the chance to play outside. Improved student focus and improved in social and emotional, because the kids were able to kind of relax and talk to their friends. So this research was just published last year, and it really gives me hope that if schools are able to increase the time of their lunch just by a little bit, or restructure their lunch and their recess time, you're going to see some great improvements in the effect on the children. So let's do these last section here, because I want Raj to have plenty of time to share the wonderful resources. So, why does it matter? They were thinking about why does it matter? Well, the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being and effective functioning in which people realize their own abilities, are stresses of life, and are able to make positive contributions to their community. This is what we want for everyone. And so why does it matter? Well, we know that 20% of children and adolescents globally, that's just not in Sacramento, have mental health difficulties, including major depressive disorders. And depression is the second most common cause of death in teens via suicide. So earlier I had mentioned that if the children are being well fed early on, it's very important times when the brain is developing, that the brain is going to be working better. And so just getting children good, nutritious food could really make a difference in the depression with some of the before. And 1 in every 4 to 5 youth meet the criteria for mental disorder with severe impairment before they reach adulthood. And the prevalence of depression among adolescents has increased by 30%. I also just heard on the radio today that the medical societies are going to be recommending even that for adults that doctors should be screening for anxiety disorders, something that hasn't happened in the past. So what's happening in childhood can really make a difference when we become adults. Policies are so important. Some of the things that you might be able to do in your school is explore your school's wellness policies, maybe them, revise them, improve them. The policy shouldn't be something that's sitting on the shelf, sitting in a computer that somebody says that they have the wellness policy. Make it a living document so that you really can keep your school healthy and well. There are all kinds of very, very interesting research and initiatives about healthy vending that is being done around the country using the physical activity guidelines we have dietary guidelines. Well, there are also physical activity guidelines too. And as I mentioned, encouraging or thinking about in your wellness policy, is there a way to increase the length of mealtime to see what would happen? Happily, I'm happy to be living in California. We have university and lunch here. Summer meals. Now we're thinking about the school year because it's in the beginning of a school year. But what happens when those children are not getting their school lunches? Well, there's also summer meals programs that are available, and thinking about maybe can your school be a site that offers that. And maybe when in the issue of food insecurity, does your school need an after school program for snacks, weekend programs, maybe some backpack meals. These are some things that have been done around the country that can really make a difference in sustaining the good nutrition, so it's not just happening Monday to Friday. And some other things you can do. Think about, can you collaborate with other people in your school who are interested in any aspect of health, nutrition, mental health, physical fitness? On September 28th, a week from today, there's going to be a White House conference on nutrition with a focus on food insecurity and that. And so we have links in our handout about that. But most important, if these issues are important to you, you want to stay engaged with them. Reviewing your wellness policies, as I mentioned. One thing that's a nice thing you could do is you can introduce yourself to the school food service director and the staff. So they're not just anonymous people. Get to know their names. Offer them praise when you've tasted something really good, when you've seen that an extra, one of the lunch ladies have done to offer kindness to the children in the school. They need to know that you are their advocates. Recognizing the signs of food insecurity in your students' children who come to school and they talk about headaches, or they talk about things that are going on. And I would just like to encourage you to set a goal for the next week for yourself and for your school on our worksheet. Wonderful resources here. I'm going to go through them quickly. Here in Oakland, there's a Center for Eco-Literacy, and they've been big champions of encouraging good nutrition and nutrition wellness policies. So that would be good. In Washington, D.C., there's an organization called FRAC, a lot of great resources about school wellness policies. Nourish California is doing a lot of work in food insecurity. USDA, they have a teen nutrition program. So if you're looking for ways to incorporate nutrition and fitness together, you can follow that link. And the American Heart Association launched something called Voices for Healthy Kids, where if you go to that website, you can see all kinds of policies that are being championed around the country for improving the health of children. And so just in summary, food and mood, nutrition, physical activity, mental health, they all go together to help a person be healthy. And they work together interdependently, they work independently, but hopefully this image will help remind you about the main points that we talked about today. So I have some image citations here, the references of the research articles that I had mentioned. And I want to thank all of you for listening, but I especially want to thank several people who contributed to help me do this presentation. Hiba El-Tahir, who you've already met, Rajwinder Kaur, who you're going to meet in a moment, her colleague Sonia Fernandez, both of them are at the Dairy Council, and Carrie Zerfas is one of my dietetic interns who helped me put together some of the slides and find the images. So with that, thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it over to Raj.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Let me just pull up all my things. Okay. My name is Rajwinder Kaur, but I go by Raj. I'm a community nutrition advisor with the Dairy Council of California. I've been with the Dairy Council for about 5 years, but I've been doing public health work for 15 years. My passion lies in preventative medicine, nutrition education, and empowerment. I've seen too many of my family members pass away from diseases that were preventable. I have a similar story to the keynote speaker of yesterday, so I'll just briefly share. I was born in India and I moved to the Central Valley when I was 8 years old. I grew up in rural India, dirt floors, no refrigeration, no TV, but we had an abundance of high quality foods and access to good education. I'm from a farming family, so we had access to fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh milk. We had cows in our backyard. I loved growing up in India, mostly because I got to be a kid. When we moved here, the roles reversed with my parents. So as we kids picked up English and our parents didn't know English, so we became their translators. I love that it's come full circle, that my dad was a milkman and now I work for the Dairy Council of California. So just a very brief background on Dairy Council of California. We've been supporting community health through nutrition education for over 100 years, and we remain committed to our cause to elevate the health of children and families in California through the pursuit of lifelong healthy eating habits. Last year, we launched the Let's Eat Healthy initiative. The launch of the Let's Eat Healthy initiative allows us to activate our cause and do even more, inviting coordination, collaboration, and co-creation with organizations and school districts. Nutrition security. Nutrition security is a term that means different things to different people. Nutrition security can be defined as people consistently having physical, social, economic access to sufficient, safe, and diverse nutritious foods that meet their dietary needs and preferences. Being fed is essential, but consuming adequate nutrition that supports individual preference is optimal. The slide illustrates the different levels. Energy sufficient. That's where food is minimal, achieving minimum calorie needs, experiencing nutrient deficiencies. Nutrient adequate, that's access to food. Food may be fortified with nutrients, low quality to moderate to ultra processed, healthy diet that's readily access to high quality food groups. Foods vary on the spectrum form of processing from whole foods to low to moderate processing. This is optimal. Not just having access to food, but the quality of food is important. School meal programs play an important role as community solutions for nutrition security. Research suggests that consumption of nutrient-dense foods made readily available in the school meal program, like fruits and vegetables or dairy products, it's associated with improved academics, health outcomes among children and adolescents. California has led the way, yay, being the first state in the nation to launch the Universal Free School Meals Program. Universal School Meals offers a unique opportunity to focus on the cafeteria environment to attract students to enjoy school meals and reduce the stigma around consumption of school meals. According to research done by the Urban Institute, universal free meals increase participation even among students who previously received free meals. This suggests that factors beyond price, maybe stigma, influence students' decision to participate. School meals may be the most nutritious meal a student receives in a day. So school staff and families play a role play a part in improving perception of school meals. Growing up in the Central Valley, I can say that school meals was the most nutritious and balanced meal that I ate. School food staff are funded and dependent on participation. So greater the participation to create a stronger program and supports access and equity for all students. Ensuring children have access to healthy food is just one piece of the puzzle. They also need to be taught nutrition and how food fuels their bodies, enabling them to make the connection between food that they eat and the health, physical, cognitive, and social emotional. The Center for Disease Control recommends 40 to 50 hours of nutrition education a year to affect behavior change. While most students receive far less than 8 hours of nutrition education a year, we understand there are many barriers that play a role in achieving the CDC recommendation. Lack of time, competing academic priorities. We simply can't expect teachers to do everything. So to overcome these barriers, nutrition education needs to be part of the larger systems approach. That's why all of you on the call today come into play. How can nutrition education be incorporated into your role and other parts of the school nutrition? And feel free to, if any of the stuff resonates, you can just write something in the Q&A or in the chat. Nutrition education intervention may play a role in addressing food insecurity. A first step could include identifying food insecure students and families and connecting them to food assistance and resources. Nutrition education and food literacy interventions can provide tools, knowledge, and to help children make healthy food choices, decisions that can improve food insecurity and diet quality. All right. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Scott Brown, a physical education teacher at Gaston Middle School in Fresno, California. He is the 21 Let's Eat Healthy champion. He shares his story of how nutrition education bridged the opportunity to screen and address food insecurity. While you're watching the story, feel free to share in the chat parts of the story that resonates with you.
Hi, my name is Scott Brown, and I am a physical education teacher at a school called Gaston Middle School in Fresno, California. One thing that pretty much every teacher, I believe, faced when COVID-19 first hit, and many of us had to go to virtual. So we were meeting our classes online. We were signing on to class, taking attendance, and teaching and instructing, and the students were learning all through a computer screen, which is very foreign, and especially to the field of physical education, but to all teachers in general. And I think every teacher had a sense of, how are we going to do this? And there was a lot of collaboration between teachers, organizations, school districts, support staff, and I think there is a lot of good things that actually came out of this. One thing that did bother me was that I knew from coaching and having different adjunct duties on campus and just being involved in students' lives that there were quite a few students who depended on the school to get the proper nutrition and or sadly just the caloric intake that they needed per day. And that was not happening. Food pickups were very low. And so what I was able to do was I was able to tie the Exercise Your Options curriculum, which taught them basic nutrition, food groups, balanced diet, why your body needs these nutrients, and so forth, to things such as Nearpods and Pear Decks and just interactive technologies. And so by doing so, I was able to just question my students randomly throughout the curriculum. And instead of them saying, hey, we don't have enough food, they had to answer questions of, hey, do you have, how many different vegetables do you have in your house right now? And then at the end, as you can see right here, it was basically, do you have food in your house to have a balanced diet, or not? And we were able to locate many families who could use the help. And we got them that help through various organizations and various partnerships within the community and the school site. Through this whole process, through answering questions, through connecting people with different organizations or the cafeteria or food services, we were able to get at least 14 different families just from my class. We also had some other families within the school site be able to get this as well. But we had 14 families just from within my class that had groceries delivered weekly for the whole household. And then we also had 17 other families get some form of food delivery, which just could have been the students' lunch and breakfast and snacks, but still, nonetheless, substantial. And we also had 40 plus students tell me that that they actually went to pick up food after learning about this stuff and just learning about where the pickup locations were. That was part of the problem as well. But then also just understanding why these things are important. So, yeah, that's at least 71 families minimum that were impacted in a very substantial and positive way, just because of this process. So we did some good. A lot of moving parts, a lot of people working together to get things done, but we definitely made a positive impact in areas of need.
Awesome. So if you want to share in the chat any part of the story that resonated with you, that would be great. But I loved his creativity in using technology and nutrition education to screen for nutrition insecurity. He didn't directly ask students if they're food insecure, if they had enough food. He was very creative with the way the questions he was able to ask. He was able to identify and connect his students to resources in and out of the school to ensure they have access to healthy foods that he was teaching about. So feel free to share comments in the chat. So in the next couple of slides, I'll talk about our services and resources to demonstrate how we can support school staff and community leaders. It's a lot of information. All of our services and resources are available at no cost to California-based educators, health professionals, community members, pretty much anyone that wants to teach nutrition education can access our resources. Our K through 12 curriculum is available in various formats. Traditional workbooks with teacher guides and learning tools such as video series, Google Classroom, PowerPoint slides, even standalone lessons. Scott Brown in the video, he used our middle school curriculum. Our mobile day classroom assembly is the first farm to school program in the state. It provides opportunity for the students to learn where their dairy foods come from and gives them the dairy farm experience. It's available in person and virtually. If you've experienced assembly, feel free to share in the chat. I know the assembly is very memorable. When I see people, they'll tell me how they had this assembly many, many years ago. Our school-based resources are designed to meet both educator and student needs in the virtual or in-person environment. They align to Common Core standards and the dietary guidelines for Americans. They're meant to be very easy to use. All of our resources are available in English and Spanish. So continuing on with our resources, our nutrition builders, they're shown on the left, are one-page activities that build on nutrition knowledge that reinforce healthy eating patterns. The activities can be parent or teacher-led. Our nutrition builders topics include My Plate, Beverage, My Breakfast, Snacks, Farm to You. In the middle, you see our wellness prescription pads. These prescription style tarot pads are available for teens and families. They provide a fun and engaging way to prescribe healthy behaviors like increasing your vegetable consumption or drinking more water. On the right, you'll see our community education booklets. The most popular is our Healthy Eating for Families booklet. This is a great resource to distribute to families to encourage them to consume foods from all 5 food groups and reinforce making small steps to a healthier lifestyle. Any of these materials can be used as enrichment activities for school food service or can be used by teachers or anyone else. And again, these are available in English and Spanish. And the reason I keep reiterating the both languages, when I was a kid, I so wish things would be available in Punjabi so my mom could read it and I didn't have to translate. So these are our parent resources, our workbooks. It's all in English and Spanish. I wanted to share about the Local School Wellness Policy Collaborative. It brings together statewide leaders to engage in dialogue and work around school wellness. Some of you might be familiar with the collaborative. Feel free to share in the chat. The mission of the collaborative is to inspire communities to take their wellness policies from paper to practice. Some examples of collaborative members include Alliance for a Healthier Generation, California Action for Healthy Kids, No Kid Hungry, CalFresh Healthy Living, UC, County Office of Education, just to name a few. It's truly a statewide collaborative. Dairy Council of California and the California Department of Education are the backbone agencies for this collaborative. The collaborative serves as a catalyst for communities and stakeholders to implement highly effective local school wellness policies to support student health and academic achievement. The collaborative meets every quarter, typically on Zoom, and the domains meet regularly. Every year, the collaborative decides on working groups that are relevant. So each year, the working domains can look differently depending on the current need. This year, the 3 working domains are protect, promote, and protect access to nutrition and food security. The Smarter Lunchroom movement work is part of this work group. Food security work is part of this domain. The second domain is to improve implementation and evaluation of the local school wellness policy. This domain looks at supporting districts with a wellness policy. Currently, the triennial assessment resources are very popular. The third domain, the whole school, whole child, and the whole community work group looks at the WISC resources and ways to share those resources with partners. Each work group hosts 1 to 2 webinars each school year. I highly encourage you to check out the webpage for the collaborative. You'll find many resources from how to even start a wellness committee to sample templates for policies and recording for webinars. So all this information is available on the collaborative webpage. The Smarter Lunchroom movement is part of the local school wellness policy collaborative. A smarter lunchroom nudges students to make healthier choices on their own by changing the way the food is presented. It uses behavior economics to make the healthier choice the easier choice. The tagline for Smarter Lunchroom movement is, "It's not nutrition until it's eaten." This infographic highlights 7 strategies to increase school meal consumption. I'll briefly highlight a few of them. Number 1, having sufficient time to eat. And it goes well with strategy number 3, recess before lunch. My first grader, she's already learned that if she eats her lunch fast, then it means more recess time. She discovered this about the 2nd week of school. This is her first year being able to eat in the school cafeteria. And just this morning, I'm telling her this is what the school is serving. And I know she wants to say yes, but she's hesitant. She's shared that kids who bring their own lunch, they get to cut in line, they get to go sit down right away, eat their lunch. So they eat lunch faster, they get more recess time. And some schools have adopted recess before lunch, and they've shared less food waste because students are not rushing to get to recess. And most schools generally are willing to adopt recess before lunch, but they just need support with logistics and timings. I know with my daughter's school, we're personally going to meet in March because that's when they work on the timings and the calendar for the next year to get recess before lunch. And then we're dropping all these links in the chat, so you'll have them. Plus you have the resource guide that has all these links too. So here's some simple actions you can take, stay take to stay engaged and connected. Join the local school wellness policy collaborative listserv. You'll receive quarterly newsletters with resources, grant opportunities, best practices. I encourage you to join the collaborative. Please email me if you're interested in joining the collaborative. Register for the October Winning at Wellness webinar that is hosted by the local school wellness policy collaborative. Join the Let's Eat Healthy initiative. You can take your phone and hold it up to that QR code, and then you can just join that way. Nominations are open for the Let's Eat Healthy champion. Please consider nominating yourself or someone else. Scott Brown, who we saw in the video earlier, he's a Let's Eat Healthy champion. I would love to see one of the participants on this meeting highlighted. I want to hear your story and how you impact students. And with that, thank you so much. And I know there was so much that I shared, so we created that resource guide with links. Feel free to email me, and I'll pass it back to Dr. Nadine for some final thoughts.
Okay, well, what I'd like to say is that I didn't pull up the worksheet that we have. I don't know if Hiba, if you're able to pull that up, but just to let you know, on the worksheet, we have resources and we have little sections for you to identify maybe one thing, something you learned about today that you can follow up on a website, because when all of us have gone to lots of webinars, we've become very used to using Zoom, but sometimes we don't take that next step to think about if there's one thing that you're going to do. So my encouragement to all of you is think about one thing that you can do for yourself, for the children in your school, the family. Yes, thank you very much for that, Hiba. And make a commitment to talk to somebody in your school who's interested. You'd be amazed that if one person does something, and then another person, and then another person, and then another person, it really builds momentum, and there's much that you can do. So that's my words of encouragement. And thank you, Hiba, so much for inviting me and inviting Raj to participate in this very important summit. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you so much, Dr. Braunstein and Raj, for really enlightening us on the connection between food, movement, and mood, really looking at the intersection between physical activity, mental health, and our overall well-being, and how we can support students in building, back to the theme, their mind, bodies, and souls at a holistic perspective. So we really appreciate having you all. I would like to actually just get a couple questions in that weren't answered in the chat. So before we close out, Lynn, would you like to just share any questions so that Dr. Nadine and Raj can answer them?
Yes, of course. So the first question, it's amazing to see how nutrition can be linked to mental health and overall well-being. Do you have any suggestions as to how we can share this information more broadly with school staff?
Oh, what a great question. Feel free to reach out to me, share the PowerPoints, because I have resources there. And if people want more information, I'm happy to find more information. Because if you reach out, then you can tell me what aspect, like which staff, what kinds of things that they may be interested in. I'm happy to share anything that I've got.
Okay, second question. How do you recommend activity before lunch at middle school and high schools who have multiple lunch periods and PE requirements that are met throughout the day?
Raj, I'm going to let you answer that one.
It's all a timing and a logistics thing. So it would be working with the school administrator. Some school districts, what I've seen them do is they'll just pilot timings with one school. So this school year, they're just going to try different timings with this school and see what works, what doesn't work before they implement it district-wide. So maybe start small, or even start on like minimum days, or just start with 1 week and let's see how this timing works out. So just start small and then kind of work with it. I see my daughter's schedule and it's like period 1 is having lunch, grade 2 is at recess, PE is this day. It's just it's a big logistics.
Mhm.
And I think that's all the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lynn. It is 4:51, 4:31, sorry. So I would like to let you all get on with the rest of your day. We'd like to thank our guest speakers and everyone who is able to join us today for this session. As a reminder, if you do need professional development credits or you want to enter our raffle, please complete the post-session survey, which has been linked in the chat, and we will also send it out via email to you all. All of our attendees, like I said, can enter to win a gift card if you go ahead and complete that post-session survey. And please join us tomorrow for our last and final day of our School Wellness Summit back here at 3:30 for our final session, Best Practices for Community Care and Coping with Burnout Among Staff, Teachers, and Student Supporters. So we hope to see you all tomorrow and have a wonderful evening. Please let us know if you have any questions, comments, and we will see you soon. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.